Hello everyone, how are we doing? First of all, a big thank you to Contentsquare for having us here today, and thank you all for coming and choosing to spend the last session of the day here with us. I'm Joseph, I'm a product manager at easyJet Holidays, and I'm joined on the stage by Chris, who is Chief Experimentation Officer at CCX. And we're really fortunate to be here today to talk to you about Problem-First Experimentation. I'm hoping we've got some experimenters in the audience today, some people who like an A/B test, and we're going to be talking to you about how we've rewritten the rules at easyJet. So to get started, I think we're going to do a bit of audience participation. It's the last session of the day, so we've got to get you interested and lively. So I'm going to hand over to Chris, who's going to hopefully
let's do it. Hi everyone.
Working.
So we've got an experiment to get going with, which is what we should be doing, isn't it, really? Thinking about the title. Also, it's a good way to get everyone's energy going. You will need your phones for this one activity. So let's start with a live experiment all around the easyJet Holidays website. And like any experiment, it has a variant A and a variant B. And we're going to think about ideation today. So how do you guys do ideation? How do you just go into a room and come up with the ideas which are going to make your companies millions of pounds? And so variant A is actually one of those ideation sessions where everyone gets in a room and thinks about how we're going to optimize the search pod. And the search pod for easyJet is all this thing here, you know, the thing that you have to interact with when you're booking a flight, or in this case, a holiday. So everything around here. And like what happens a lot is you're pressured to how on earth are you going to come up with some ideas for this? So what I want you to do is you're going to have for 2 minutes, you're going to have a Slido QR code, and you're going to have to think about 4 ideas to optimize this search pod. Can be anything you like. And I'd like you to join now and type them in. So remember, a search pod has all around the calendar widget, all around the numbers of people. You can probably remember.
Interested to see what ideas we get here.
Exactly, yeah, I'm intrigued.
Fill our backlog.
Exactly. So start entering your ideas now, and you have to enter them like 3 or 4 times. I'm saying 4 ideas, you might have 2, you might have 5, it's not the end of the world. So is it working? No? Just try again. Oh, is it working now? Ah, there you go. And you should be able to enter like 3 or 4 words, and then you can click go. Conversational search. Very good. AI text search. You've been listening today, haven't you?
Oh, lots of liking the colours.
Fantastic. Tons of
classic
ideas.
A/B test.
Colours, yes. AI chatbot, of course. That's on the roadmap already, isn't it? Reassurance. So many things, aren't there, that we could do. Make it sticky, make it work better with bigger thumbs, make it work for builders with their big fat thumbs. Okay, amazing. So many ideas, so many different aspects of a search pod, which is a relatively simple thing, really, isn't it? But knowing where to start when you have this many ideas is something that we often talk about. Okay. Fantastic. Now we're going to do variant B. So that was variant A. Now we're going to do the same experiment again. But this time, let's add an ingredient. And that ingredient is actually a triangulated problem statement. It's an ingredient that comes from doing research. It comes from insights that and this was a real problem statement here. So actually, when we did our discovery research with real users, usability testing, and also coupled that with Contentsquare analysis, we uncovered that the biggest opportunity in this search pod is all around the confusion around the flexibility in search by month option. So there's a search by month option here, And it just was a bit confusing for users. And plus, so we saw multiple attempts to select different months and change duration. There's obviously some confusion there. But also, the search by month duration appears editable, but it isn't. So loads of continued tapping, loads of frustration. And there's no flexibility. So when you choose the by month, you're fixed at 7 days only. And then what we saw is people going back and forth between the calendar and between the search by month. So what seemed like a fantastic feature is actually holding people back and creating confusion. But the great thing is, when we do our ideation based on a triangulated problem statement, well, I will reveal, and let's see what happens. But so have that information in your mind, and we're going to do the same experiment again. So let's try again. So it should work on the same Slido. So now start adding your ideas. And remember, it's all around that search by month feature, and it's all about the lack of flexibility and that kind of confusion around there. Okay, nice. School holiday search, that's a great idea. That's really interesting, isn't it? This is search. Singular date selection, date duration, add day. Okay, sequential steps. So I hope you can see already how focused this ideation session was compared to the first one. The first one was basically scattergun approach. But now you've got some real data, you know what to focus the roadmap on. And it'll make for a very different type of ideation session. Actually, hands up how many people have had the ideation session of just everyone going in the room and then trying to get people to buy more type of ideation session without data. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's inevitable, isn't it? So, which ideation variant works best, would you say? I mean, we've got these things here. Are you going to get this to work?
Yeah, you just got to change the color to which one you think's best, and then hold them up.
All right, nice one. Oh.
Okay, we're getting, for those at home, we're getting mostly blues. People are preferring the more focused ideation session.
Yeah, exactly. And what we're comparing here really is these look pretty similar, don't they? You know, loads of people in a room, busy ideating. But the key difference is with these guys, this is for let's optimize without any data. This difference is the triangulated problem statement, which means that 100% of ideas are focused on real customer problems rather than just anything else. But what's wrong with these type of ideation sessions? When teams don't have customer problems to go after, they have no choice but to spaghetti test. They have no choice but just grasping in thin air. So therefore, you waste so much time in your roadmap. You have lower win rates as an experimentation team and product team because you're just guessing. And guessing is fine if you had infinite resource and an infinite team to test absolutely everything on your site. But the reality is most companies don't have that. The second thing is far too much time is wasted trying to solve non-existent problems. And it sounds very obvious, but actually how much resource in your companies is spent just trying to build something that may be very exciting, but actually if it's not solving an underlying problem, it's never going to work. And you just won't find it out until you've wasted 6 months of resource on it.
So yeah, if you're sitting there and thinking, damn, we spaghetti test, we throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, you're definitely not alone. At easyJet, we have what I would say is quite a mature experimentation program with the help of CCX. We do a lot of experiments, and we are also guilty of this. Even though we like to approach it with a problem statement first, we do often test ideas that are more spaghetti related, and I wanted just to let everyone know that. We've got an example. I'm going to take you through an example, but to kind of bring it to life, I went into the archives and I looked, and we have done 10 experiments on the search pod in the past year, and a lot of them are on different ideas, different areas, not necessarily all joined up, and that's shown in the results. We actually haven't had any winners on the search pod. We've had a lot of some inconclusive, and a couple of learnings where we can get a significant downshift, and from there we can basically take learnings and move forward. So yeah, please don't feel like if you're not doing problem-first experimentation, you're doing it. You're terrible. That's not the case. Everyone can go on this journey. And to give you an example of one of these tests that we did, we looked across the industry and we saw that a lot of our competitors, instead of doing a date picker, which we do, where you can kind of use Snake, you pick your departure date and your return date, they were using a departure date plus a duration. And we thought, you know what? Let's test it. Let's throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. And it was inconclusive. Now, it's not necessarily a bad idea. A lot of our competitors are doing it. It could have been a winner, but the point that we're making here is if you do a problem-first ideation first, it focuses you, it increases your likelihood of getting a winner, and it also decreases your time to getting winners as well. So we've done a triangulated problem statement now around this. We've done a more focused ideation session, and we are now building a backlog around how we can improve our search pod with this in mind. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail around how we do this now. Chris is going to take us through and hopefully give a bit of a model which you can follow to make sure you get a bit more success and ultimately more and bigger winning experiments.
And I can't wait to see those experiments go live as well. We've got a few in the roadmap too, which is amazing. So that's why we adopted a problem-first approach at easyJet, and I think this is a good way of looking at things, really. The key thing is solution-first ideation sessions. Really, you're driving your whole roadmap of experiments and product work based on guesswork. But if we want to move to more of a problem-first approach, we need to start doing something we call opportunity discovery research, and we need to approach it in a dual track. You guys need to devote some of your team to this endeavor. It's so important to not just, and all it takes is a few people really to be responsible for doing explorative research, looking for opportunities in those customer problems from the qual and the quant, and throughout the year. So we do bigger projects, and we do loads of weekly, 2-week sprints around research throughout the whole year, which means that we're continually finding new opportunities across the whole easyJet journey. And that works in parallel. And this is an example of just one of these with all these lovely users from usability testing and some great quant research. And these are how many opportunities we find from just one journey here. So all across the journey, showstoppers, major frictions and frustrations, all of those opportunities that you can go after them. And then when we've got our triangulated problem statements, like quite a few of them from each piece of research, this is the problem statement. This is what you ideate from. And when you get really good at these things, we actually put them into JIRA, so the problem statements at a high level, at epic level, with all the experiments underneath. It creates so much structure for the team. And then the second thing is the problem-first ideation sessions. So when you've got all your problem statements, you do these ideation sessions regularly. They can be large ones with many different teams, or just small ideation sessions. But it means the quality of the ideas off the back are amazing. And then this is the structure to our ideation sessions. So we spend a decent amount of time at the start talking about the problem statement, showing the evidence, showing the real clips, talking through the data so everybody is aligned on what problem we're trying to solve here. Then the next stage is we do crazy eights. Who's done crazy eights here? Oh yeah, like over half of you, fantastic. The great thing about that, that's the point where you're doing individual ideation. So you want to get people's ideas first before they go into groups, because otherwise you end up with groupthink and the loudest person. And then lastly, we do this thing called co-creation, which is where the groups come together and we start actually thinking through the actual ideas and having a lot of fun in the meantime by sticking things together. Very much Blue Peter style, which is a lot of fun for those who know what Blue Peter is. Showing my age here. And we kind of gamify it and have competitions. But this is the process. This is what we do to improve the quality of the ideas in your roadmap. There is a byproduct to this as well, and that's what you get. You get different people from different teams involved in your process. Very often experimentation is done in a siloed way. But some of the best ideas come from different teams. They come from the call center, or come from the marketing team, or come from a trading, for example. And then the last thing is, we have a very great roadmap full of ideas, which are all based on real customer problems. So therefore, we can make a lot more impact. And so far, for easyJet Holidays, we've really made really good progress with this. So this is actually a snapshot of the program metrics from experimentation. So we can see the win rate overall from all our ABN tests at 34%. But what we've done, we've broken down the problem-first experiments all the versus all the others, like fly-in, business ideas, competitor-inspired, ad hoc. And the key thing is we still test this because we don't want to be like a blocker. We don't want to say no to too many things, but we just want to increase the percentage. And when we analyze the two, we can see that the win rates are 52% higher for problem-first experiments. There's a big increase in the win rates because, again, we're focusing on real problems and with real data. And very interestingly, the inconclusive rates are 39% lower, which means that we're at least focusing on the areas of the journey that really matter to your customers. I think another thing that normally happens when you're guessing is that you're testing in an area that actually your customers don't care about, or you're testing a thing that they have isn't never going to move the needle. So again, this pinpoints the right area. And I think it's really interesting about not giving up on an idea too, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, which we'll get to now. So yeah, I spoke before about some of the failures that we've had. So I think it's probably about time I talk about a success using the problem-first approach. However, even though this is a success story, it still has setbacks along the way. And before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about what I think is maybe the most important skill, really, that an experimenter can have in their toolkit, and that is a growth mindset. So when you're experimenting, you're often going to, in fact, you're going to fail more often than you succeed. If you're getting a winner every single time, please join the team. But really, the idea here is to learn, and even if you don't get a winner, you still need to learn, pivot, improve, take on those learnings on board. So I think the most important thing that you can have as an experimenter, as an A/B tester, is that mindset of seeing everything as a positive, apart from maybe an inconclusive, which is just annoying because then you can't. But even then, you've got your secondary metrics that you could look into and really get some learnings in there. So I don't think we've ever had an experiment that we haven't learned something from. And once you get that mindset in place, that everything's an experiment, everything's a learning, then the sky's the limit, really, and you can keep on building your program up. So keep that in mind. So yeah, let's try and bring to life this process with an example. So we started to triangulate through some qualitative testing. So we start talking to customers. It's always a great place to start when you're trying to find problems. Customers will have problems and they will tell you about them. So in this example, we haven't embedded the video, so you'll have to trust me. But this lady went through the checkout and was experiencing a lot of friction. And one of the main ones was basically around the persistence of information on her selection throughout the checkout. So she was getting really frustrated that she was going through steps in the checkout and she wasn't able to see what it was that she had in her basket. She wasn't able to have that reassurance and that confidence built throughout. And what it led to was her kind of going back and forward. And in going back and forward, it actually surfaced some other issues around information being lost, things dropping off of her basket. So really, we learned a lot from this experience, but we really started to zoom in on this particular problem area, which is around the persistence of information throughout the checkout and the reassurance before checking out. And then we also then get the other element of a triangulation, which is the quantitative data. And here we used Contentsquare to see us, as I recommend you all do. And here we started to see evidence of this, this qual insight in the data as well. We saw a looping behavior. We saw a lot of customers going through the checkout, but then going backwards, sometimes as far back as the hotel details page. And we saw that it was supporting this insight that we have a problem where customers don't have the information they need to progress at the end of the checkout. So with these two things in mind, I hope we aren't being asked to leave from a fire, but we'll continue until someone tells us otherwise. So it's gone off. So we've now really are starting to zoom in on this problem where there's this idea of reassurance, confidence, and the persistence of information. So with that in mind, we took this problem statement into a problem-first ideation session. So we got everyone around the table, did our crazy eights, did our group sessions, and came up with some great ideas to experiment and try to see, can we solve this problem and can we get an experiment winner? And what we came out with was what we call the summary sidebar. So you'll see here on the side what we had originally, and this is our extras page. So this is the page in which customers add on seats, their bags, they can buy airport parking, and they're really starting to build up their holiday. What we decided to do was add on a persistent card that then reassures them and is built up over time as they add on all of their extras. So you're giving them an itemized list of their flights, their hotel, their nights, all the information that they need, and that is then persistent throughout the checkout to get them there and provide that reassurance we needed. And for an MVP, to get this to market quickly, we did this on just the extras page. So there's a few steps afterwards where we asked for guest details and payment. But for MVP, we said, you know what, let's get to market fast and test this. Let's put it on the extras page. And what happened? Inconclusive. And this is where I said there's a setback. Now, if we were doing spaghetti testing, if this was just an idea that we'd come up with, hey, let's chuck on a summary basket, we've seen other people do it, probably works, we might have lost hope, we might have lost faith here and said, you know what, this isn't right, let's move on to something else. But because we had identified the problem statement, we knew this problem existed, we'd seen the customers are experiencing it, we'd seen it in the data, we were like, no, let's keep going further. So we invested a bit more and we extended it out into the guest details page. So it went further on now, and surprise, surprise, we had a massive experiment winner. And so this basically shows that when you understand a problem area, it can focus you in your ideation and you can build the right solution for customers, but it also gives you the faith to keep going and keep iterating and following that kind of line of inquiry until you get the right outcome and you get your experiment winner. So this was a really nice example of how that problem-first experimentation can lead to great results. And we're not done yet. We've seen more, we've got more ideas in the backlog to iterate on this. For example, we're seeing problems where customers are not able to easily edit their basket, so we're going to add on an edit functionality as a test next. And so yeah, if you're on the easyJet holiday site in the next few weeks, you might see that come in if you fall into the variant, and we'll see if that's a winner as well.
So fantastic.
Takeaways.
So just a few takeaways to leave behind, really. Try to focus on real customer problems for higher win rates and lower inconclusive rates. Try to dedicate resource to this. It's so important to have resource, not just to slow the current team down. Triangulate your problem statements, qual and quant. Aim for those problem-first ideation sessions and iterate rather than giving up on a problem. And then do track how this all goes and let us know, because we would love to find out. So with that, thank you very much. Oh, first, really importantly, sorry, Joseph.
Yes, shameless plug, but in easyJet we are growing, especially on the holiday side, and we have some upcoming roles. They aren't on our job site yet. This is hot off the press. So the QR code goes to my LinkedIn. So we have a role up in my team as a product owner in e-commerce, and we also have an experimentation manager role coming up as well. So if you are interested in roles, message me on LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn, and we can chat. But we are, always looking to grow our team. So yeah, thank you, and I think we have a little bit of time for questions.
Thank you very much.
We'll see how it goes. Does anyone have any questions? I'm not sure how the tech will work. We've got a microphone maybe that's going around. Any hands?
I don't know, I think you have maybe this to work.
Okay. Sorry, no, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah. Okay, cool. I don't know if I missed it. What was the metric, primary and secondary metrics that you were tracking for those tests? Was it just like actual bookings? Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so So for the summary sidebar test, so most of our experiments, we have the metric of transactions that we're looking at. We want to see what it does for the bottom line, and really that can then kind of validate the experimentation program that we're making money, that we're adding on. But things like conversion rate, like revenue, they are what I call output metrics. So they're very far down the funnel. So say we're doing something that is maybe on the homepage or even on the search pod that we were talking about at the start, we may not see that direct correlation. So we may select a metric that's closer, more of an input metric, a metric that you're directly impacting from that experiment. So we do always want to keep an eye on it, and we want to see statistical significance, ideally in our conversion rate and our transactions, but we wouldn't always judge an experiment based on that. We'd try and be sensible about it and ship the winners. Know that as long as you have that eventual impact on the conversion rate, it will build up over time.
I just wondered if you could talk to any cultural challenges bringing this into the organisation, and did it all go swimmingly? Was it really easy to adopt, or were there some things you had to do to kind of get this in place?
Yeah, I think actually, because it's collaborative, it's hard to know what to do with that. Because it's called collaborative sessions, it does a really good culture building exercise in the ideation. It's much better than, say, keeping everybody in a siloed team and keeping everybody to themselves. It's actually really helped to just improve the overall business culture in terms of being more experimental with everything that you do, but also being more customer focused. Because we always start with a customer problem statement, it has a really good, it almost gets everybody thinking they're doing something more worthwhile because they're solving a real problem rather than just guessing and stabbing in the dark. So it's been great, actually.
You really want to build a trying to build an experimentation culture in a business is really, really important, and getting business stakeholders bought in is important. And we're trying to get to the point where everything is an experiment, which comes with a sense of discomfort and sometimes because you're going to have losers, but it's much better to identify that something's not working than ship regressions and be losing money on the bottom line. So if you can tell that story in the right way and also get the velocity of testing in place and the clarity and that culture, it can grow and it can be really good in an organization. But it is challenging, definitely, especially in organizations where people aren't familiar with experimentation and aren't trusting of it.
And that's our job as a consultancy, is to make experimentation easy for every team at easyJet. That's what we focus all our efforts on. How do we make the process easier? How do we make the tooling or the technical or the data setup as easy as possible so that every team can experiment without it being a major obstacle? So.
Perfect. So I think that's it for
time.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you
we
very
won't
much.
keep you from the bar any longer. Thank you all for your time.